Well, it feels like it should come down to this, but it's the first time it ever has come down to this. That is the Steelers and Ravens playing in the final regular season game of the season with the AFC North title on the line. Such will be the case this Sunday night at Acrisure Stadium. Thanks for being with us for the matchup presented by Shell Polymers alongside Missi Matthews and Matt Williamson. I'm Rob King. Before we move forward to the matchups, obviously Missi, disappointing loss for the Steelers. They had a chance to make this game moot and couldn't do it against Cleveland on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, and I think once we all realized as we were getting on the buses home from Cleveland back to Pittsburgh that this was going to be a Sunday night matchup. Obviously, the league had a few choices, but this just seemed to make sense, and it's do or die, game number 272 of the regular season, and we'll see who comes out the winner.
In a general sense, Matt, the Steelers appeared to be reaching a crescendo. The Ravens kind of up and down, but they turned in a very strong performance, especially offensively, Saturday night in Green Bay.
Yeah, without Lamar Jackson, a very Derrick Henry-centric game plan, to say the least, and he gets better. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about him, but he gets better as the weather gets worse, and boy, he was a handful. The defense wasn't nearly as good as Baltimore's offense, but they are playing pretty well right now on that side of the ball.
Yeah, we will not get through this show without talking about Derrick.
I bet we'll bring it up. Yeah.
I promise you. Okay, so let's get to our matchups when the Steelers have the ball on offense. And Missi, Steelers weren't effective running the ball against the Ravens in their previous meeting. Ever since then, they've run the ball well, and that's your key for Sunday night.
Yeah, I think most importantly, I know we say run the ball every single week because it does make sense, but you just go back to that Detroit game and what Jaylen Warren and Kenny Gainwell were able to do, not just on the ground, but, you know, just their influence to that offense. But in terms of the Ravens defense, since week 6, they have been second in the NFL best for rushing yards per game. So it will not be an easy test, but I just think the Steelers' offense is so much more balanced. It gives Aaron Rodgers maybe just a second longer if he does decide he wants to throw the ball, and not having DK Metcalf obviously hurts in that situation because of the fact we saw what they did in round 1 against the Ravens. But I do think that utilizing those guys, time of possession, again, something we always talk about, but that goes hand in hand with running the football, controlling it, and they have to score touchdowns.
Yeah, and the Steelers have been better at running the ball, like you said, and have been better at time of possession, Matt. Time of possession and plays run is something that you look at a lot. And yes, we all want to see the running game going, but your key is they've got to find a way without DK Metcalf and now without Darnell Washington to make some plays down the field. It was a very horizontal passing game against the Browns. And if you're the Ravens, you have a week to prepare for that. That could be trouble.
So you'd love to have Washington, especially for Missi's key, to run the football.
Sure.
You'd love to have Metcalf for my key, and that's getting the ball down the field. Now, the Steelers, when they faced the Ravens the first time around, did have a lot of explosives. Now, Metcalf was obviously part of that equation. They've struggled with it all year, though. I mean, they've not been an explosive passing game. That being said, I mean, I'm sure you're going to see a lot of the similar defense from the Ravens that the Browns had such success with. I think you'll see man coverage. You're going to see single high. But frankly, Cleveland's better at it than Baltimore. And Baltimore does allow a lot of explosives. So I think you have to take chances down the field. I don't know what the status of Austin is at this point, but his speed could be welcome as well.
It would be nice because that receiving group had only caught 28 passes from Steelers quarterbacks, the wide receiver group, going into that game last week. So, again, you're talking about some big weapons being gone in this game. And that leads me to my key, which is get Muth loose. I would say Muth loose. There have been a lot of people that have been talking about Pat Freiermuth, who's pretty much good. You can pretty much pencil him in for 60 receptions a season when he gets his 17 games played. And obviously he's not on pace to do that this year. A lot of people wanted more of Pat Freiermuth. They've been spreading the ball around more. Their leading receiver is not DK Metcalf. It's Kenny Gainwell out of the backfield. Gainwell and Warren have been good. But boy, especially without Darnell Washington and without DK Metcalf, Freiermuth, who helped get the ball down the field for the Steelers in that final drive until they got into the red zone, he would be a welcome guy to see back into this offense.
Right, and I think to Matt's point of not having Darnell Washington, not just for how he has evolved in the passing game, but even when they run Spartan or the Steel City Shove, what you like to call, let's involve Pat Freiermuth in that as well. And I just think, as you said, he got the Steelers in a position to potentially tie the game, to go to overtime in Cleveland, and it just felt like those were his only plays, really. And He is somebody that even I remember being in Cleveland in that stadium his rookie season and him having an insane touchdown catch from Ben Roethlisberger. This is a guy who has had success in the league. It just feels like he's not being utilized, I guess, in the same way that he has previously this year in this offense.
Sure-handed, and as we saw in Cincinnati, and as we've seen at times, Matt, maybe he melds into your key, the ability to get the ball down the field a little bit.
Yeah, I'd like to see more seam stretching from the tight end position. That's something I kind of anticipated early in the process here with those 3 tight ends. Now, you hate that Washington's banged up. He's one of my favorite players on the team. But that doesn't open the door for others to step up. And I think Freiermuth could, or should, maybe be an every downs guy, every snap player.
All right, it is time now for this week's Immaculate Prediction, the game in which you get to play against Steeler Nation for prizes. And our question this week on the Immaculate Prediction and the Predictive Challenge is, survey says, will Alex Highsmith record at least 1 sack? He had 2 sacks last week. He leads the team in sacks. Before we move on, he's having a phenomenal season. I mean, he's only played a dozen games, 8.5 sacks. I think we'd be talking Pro Bowl with him. If he's 16 games, he's probably got 12.5 sacks.
Well, spoiler, he's my key for on the other side of the ball. I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but I'm really high on Alex Highsmith.
We wanted to let you fire an early salvo. Good for you. Okay, we'll get to that in a moment. Up next, the Steelers defense will try to slow down Derrick Henry and the Ravens offense. We'll give you our thoughts on how that can happen when the matchup, presented by Shell Polymers, resumes.
Fans are here. Give them something to cheer about to them.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud. Wow!
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
This defense is swarming.
And it's picked off. Wow! What a catch! Guess who? Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers!
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
The Steelers will host the Ravens on Sunday night at Acrisure Stadium. The winners will get fitted for hats and T-shirts. The losers will be scrambling around in the basement looking for their golf clubs. So that's a lot on the line in this game because the winner will move on and the loser will not advance to the playoffs. So the Baltimore Ravens come into this game. Of course, the Steelers won the first matchup. And, Matt, you alluded to this earlier about their success against the Green Bay Packers. Derrick Henry now has more 200-yard rushing games than anybody in NFL history. 36 carries in this game. He really just ran wild against Green Bay.
He really did, and they grew real tired of tackling him too, especially once he got to the secondary, especially in that weather. And that's been the case his whole remarkable career. I mean, I don't remember a running back like him, with his height that isn't he's big and strong, but he's not overweight. And his durability and his ability to just keep coming and coming game after game is really unmatched.
The most yards per game as a ball carrier in December and January in NFL history.
I think ever, yeah. Right.
Ever. Number one. So, Missy, let's get to our
Thanks,
matchup.
guys.
And let's start with Derrick Harmon in the lineup. Maybe that helps slow down Derrick Henry.
I hope so. I do. And, it's a small accolade to what you guys have already said about Derrick Henry, but he, of course, is the Week 17 AFC Offensive Player of the Week. I think that was a slam dunk. You could have determined that Saturday night when that game ended, and there was only 2 games at that point. But the Steelers have had success against Derrick Henry previously. Of course, some with Tennessee, some when he first came to the Ravens. And if they hold him to under 100 rushing yards, they're 5-0. Over 0-2, I think you know what those 2 games are and how recent those were. But I do think Derrick Harmon, we keep saying this, but Coach Tomlin said before he even got out of the shower in Baltimore after that wild card loss, he was already thinking about how they need to invest in the defensive line. They need to be able to stop the run. Derrick Harmon, Y.A. Black, even Jack Sawyer, just how they went about their draft, their free agency moves, and it has been something when Derrick Harmon is in the lineup, how much more success they have had. I think last week it didn't feel like they were doing and dominating physically as much as they did the inside of the D-line in Detroit, where you were just like, wow, you're shutting down a duo. So hopefully that's something they can get back together, knowing that you got to stop the King first.
You do. And, you know, Matt, when you talk about Alex Highsmith, here's a guy who not only helps you against the run, but obviously helps you in the pass rushing department as well. He's going against a two-time Pro Bowler in Ronnie Stanley at left tackle. To me, Highsmith should have been a Pro Bowler several years ago when he had 14.5 sacks. Would have been considered, I think, for a Pro Bowl this year had he not been injured. So this is a tremendous matchup on the left side.
Yeah, and Stanley's had a good career, but I mean, anyone that watches him will realize he had a really bad ankle injury 2 years ago. It was actually several days after he signed a huge contract, played the Steelers, ripped up his ankle, and he's getting back to form, but it's a slow process. But he's not the Pro Bowl elite player that he was. But they're still going to leave him alone against Highsmith quite a bit. And I just wanted to talk about how good Highsmith's playing. Yeah, I mean, it's underreported to me because he's a force against the run. But you could argue over this last month or so, he's been the best player on the field. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think that would be a stretch. Cam Hayward's been excellent,
phenomenal,
I think, down the stretch as well. But Highsmith, he's been absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, when he was injured and was in the lineup, then you lose TJ Watt, you're thinking, oh man, Nick Herbig's dealing with an injury, and it has not mattered which outside linebacker has not been there this back half of the season. Alex Highsmith has stepped up each and every way, every game.
So as we're taping this on Wednesday, and by the way, happy old year, happy new year, right? 25 into 26. We don't know who's going to be playing quarterback for the Ravens. We don't know whether it's going to be Snoop Huntley or whether Lamar Jackson will be back. Regardless, to me, my key is, okay, we've stopped the run. We've done a nice job getting pressure on the passer. You cannot let Zay Flowers get loose. Flowers, a Pro Bowl wide receiver. We know that. But he's also a big play, a potential big play guy for this Ravens offense. The last thing you want to do is see him get a short pass and take it 60 yards. He's been their leading receiver in 14 of their 16 games. In the 2 games he wasn't, they're 0-2. So he's obviously an important guy in their passing attack, as are, of course, the tight ends. But if I'm going to single out one guy, to me, it's going to be Flowers.
Yeah, I don't blame you. He's a very dynamic playmaker with the ball in his hands, sharp route runner, smaller. One thing I wanted to mention, though, is, and it was really evident in the Packers game last week, boy, they're going to put some big personnel on the field. You're going to see Ricard, who's basically a guard playing fullback. Kohler played more than the other tight ends, and he's their blocker. But if you have the little speedster outside of that, all the mass in the middle, you got to pay attention to him too.
Right, for sure. Yeah, 'cause you don't want him just stuck out there, again, taking that short pass and going the distance. So we got it all sussed out, right? We got the matchups ready for you. The AFC North title is on the line when the Steelers host the Ravens coming up on Sunday night at Acrisure Stadium. Kickoff is scheduled for 8:20 p.m. For Missi Matthews, Matt Williamson, our entire Steelers production crew, I'm Rob King. We wish you a happy new year, and we thank you for joining us for this edition of The Matchup presented by Shell Polymers.